Today we're carrying on with Balvenie. Today we're going to be doing the 14-year-old, the Caribbean Cask. And before you ask, yeah, that's real. It's kind of funny because the rest of them are up here and they're too tall to actually get in shot. So I thought I'll put one down here, and you still can't really see it because of how the background blur works. So I'll look. Isn't that pretty? These were not the cheapest roses, to be fair, for what they are. They weren't the most expensive, but I was like, I am going to show these off at every opportunity to try and get my money's worth. Because also, I still look at them and I'm like, these are real. This is. I mean, obviously they weren't grown like this; they'd been dyed. But you know, I'm not a complete idiot. But they're just so pretty. I love them. Anyway, one of the reasons I love spring. There's a lot of flowers about. I love flora, you know? Makes things great, I find. But anyway, we're not here to talk about rainbow roses, cool though they are. And, you know, I get to enjoy them, you don't so much. You just get to look at the leaves. Oh, I did not think this through. Anyway, whiskey. So, if you didn't catch my Balvenie 12-year-old video, there'll be a card. But I had a tasting a week ago, nearly 2 weeks ago at the time this came out, and we got a load of samples and I didn't drink them all, so I thought I'd share the wealth. Now then, the Caribbean Cask is an interesting one because there's always somebody that asks about what are the specific, like what rum casks are used, and the answer is it changes. They are after a particular flavour profile more than getting cask from a particular producer. So their focus is on making sure that it tastes the same. Bottle in and bottle out. That's the idea that they're going for. So it changes. So there's rum maturation in this. That's sort of the beginning and the end of that one. Beyond that, there's not a huge amount of information because it changes, so it's not really that relevant. I didn't look up the ABV of this one, but I think I'm right in saying this one's the 43%. Do you know what? I've started putting up cards, haven't I? So that information will be in there. Saves me a bit of time. There we go. More work for future John instead of current John. Hi, future John. You think I'm a dick now, don't you? Yeah, fuck you. So that was to future John, not you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Colour's broadly relevant because Balvenie do all the things that, you know, we're not the biggest fans of. Colouring, chill filtering, all that kind of a thing. Although, we do have something coming up in a few weeks that breaks the mould on that one, and it's amazing. But we won't get into that just now. For now, I'm swirling it, aren't I? People have issues with swirling sometimes. There's a wonderful, like, peaches aroma coming on the nose. If anyone's ever been one of those people that like to experiment with their breakfast cereals, no, not in that way. If you ever had, like, cornflakes and you've chucked, like, fresh berries on or something like that, it's got that kind of, like, corn and fresh fruit kind of thing going on. I don't do that because, like, fruit and milk's a bit weird to me. I don't know, it's just, maybe just me. Although I do like smoothies and fruit yogurt. I don't make any sense, do I? What is that? Something a little bit... I was going to say citrusy, but when I normally say citrusy, I mean like lemon and lime kind of a thing. That's not... I want to say like mandarins, like a sort of like sweet orange kind of a... Okay. But we don't spend all of our time just smelling whiskey. I mean, some people do, but, you know, that's a pastime in and of itself, I suppose. But what does it taste like? That's what we care about. Okay, there's like a corn-led kind of golden syrup sweetness. Maybe close to like a corn syrup, actually. But there's like a corny sweetness to it. A little bit tannic, red apples... A little bit of like a melon, kind of like a honeydew melon, not like watermelon. That's its own weird and interesting flavour. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of peach again, but kind of like if you grilled peaches with like a bit of sugar. There's a definite element of sweetness, like you're trying to make the fruit unhealthy for you. Yeah, the rum element kind of presents itself as this slightly vegetal funk at the start. And it kind of carries on as like a through note. But it's not really contributing much in terms of a flavour, it's more of a sensation when you're drinking it. It's enough to make you go, oh yeah, no, I'm getting a bit of rum influence, but it's not doing much for the whiskey, if that makes sense. It's, I will say it's not unpleasant, of course it's not, it's a lovely whiskey. It's not a huge amount different from the 12-year-old. It's a little less sweet and it's a little more tannic and vegetal. There's a bit more of kind of like a, reminding me a little bit of Fire and Cane, but obviously without the smoke. So more just kind of like the cane, I suppose. It is a little bit sweeter, or it's sweet in a different way. And as I'm drinking it as well, there's more of that kind of like a brown sugar, cornflakey kind of a sweetness. What I'm going to do, because I've accidentally drank most of that, I'm going to top myself up, and then I'm going to stick a bit of water in it. Oh, that's interesting. There's way more vegetal components coming out of it now. It's like if you tried cooking cabbage in vodka. There's a grainy, vegetal funk. It's reminding me a little of like candied angelica as well. There's like a sweetness and a bitterness. A candied angelica is a bit of a niche product these days. It's not something that gets used very much anymore. My mum, as a baker, she's very old school in her cakes, and angelica was something that would occasionally see an appearance. So that's the only reason I know about that. That and Wimberries, that's another odd one that you don't hear much about. We had some strange confectionaries growing up, but you know what? I was into it. The nose becomes much more muted the longer you give it. As the water has a chance to meld with the whiskey, the two kind of like start neutralising one another. Fair bit of oak influence in there, because obviously it's, it's a whiskey, duh. A little bit vanilla-y, but it does get a little more simple as time goes on. So let's see what water does to the flavour of it. Yeah, it really evens it out. What I will quickly say before I go into this is that it's a nice drinking experience. It is mellow, light, and pretty easy going. It's fairly sweet, as whiskey goes. Sometimes when people hear that, oh, a whiskey is sweet, they're expecting something to be, like 9 bags of sugar. And then, when you give them something like this, it's kind of like, that's not sweet at all, because, they're expecting something that is, sweet. This isn't, sweet. This is, sweet flavour, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's definitely become a lot more simple. The flavour that is there is still, fairly pronounced, but it is simple. Getting a little bit of like a coconut kind of a flavour in there as well. It's very mellow, very soft, a little bit tropical. Brown bread, cornflakes, and a little bit of just kind of like a general sweetness. There's not a huge amount happening, but what is happening is very pleasant, and it's a very drinkable whiskey. And I will leave that there. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on the Balvenie 14 Caribbean Cask. Do you enjoy it? Are you not really into it? Is it one of those whiskies that kind of like started you off and then moved you on up? One thing I will say from personal experience, it's a really good gateway whiskey. The 12 was my personal one, but the 14 is a really good one to get people on board, because it gets people interested, like, oh, well, you like rum, how about a rum whiskey? It's not quite what it is, but I mean, it gets them interested enough that they're like, ooh, okay. And there is enough of like a rum-like component to it that it does kind of steer them in. So this is, you've got your gateway drugs, this is a gateway whiskey in many respects. And I still like it, and I'd still recommend it to people. So, Good news out of all that. My scores will be down below in the comment section. If while you're there, there's a few links. There's ones to my Patreon. You can join the channel as well. You get perks with either option that you choose. And more of those details will be down below because I don't want to fill this out with just pleading on my knees. I mean, it's been a long pandemic, so I mean, I've not been doing very much on my knees. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and do join me next time where I'll be drinking something else.